The ATF is a group of Compton gangs clicked up who share the same rivals. The ATF have been allies for many years. The gangs in the ATF are Acacia Block Compton Crips, Spooktown Compton Crips, and Farm Dog Compton Crips. Gangs in the ATF beef with Crip and Pirus sets in Compton heavy. They beef with hoods like the Nutty by Compton Crips and also the Mexican Barrio gangs like the 7 O's. In this episode, I will go into incidents where the ATF put in work and a few incidents where they got slid on. A 13-year-old boy will be sitting in front of his home talking to a friend in Spooktown Compton Crips turf. His mom was named Rose and she will be watching from the front porch. A car will pull up and start shooting. The car will speed off and the 13-year-old boy will lose his life. Rose would give a description of the car and the shooter. She would pick the shooter out of a lineup. The shooter was later discovered to be a man named Lamont, who was from Nutty Block Compton Crips. Rose would later receive threats by phone calls and getting letters from the shooter, who was in jail by that time. He would tell her to tell the police she picked the wrong person, or else something would happen. Later, her daughter would be shot, and for her protection and her family's, she would say she picked the wrong person, and the case would be dismissed. June 4th, 2007. A woman named Desiree was walking from the bus stop at Compton Transit Center when she would be approached by a man named Jimmy. He would ask her for her bike, but she would say no and went in another direction. She would shortly hear gunshots. The person who would be shot was a man named Keith from Nutty Block Compton Crip. She knew Keith because she always seen him in the area. Desiree would give a description of Jimmy to the police. She would say a group of Acacia Block Crips was in front of the transit center pressing and banging on everybody. Desiree said the group of Acacia Block members was saying somebody has to do it. He can't be in our hood. And that the victim Keith was approached by Jimmy when she was walking away. And the next thing you know, she heard shots. Most of the Acacia Block members who were at the transit center would be picked up and placed in cells that have recording devices in them. Jimmy would be on tape, often saying he didn't do it, and somebody else did. Jimmy would be recorded saying to another Acacia Block member that a dude from Acacia named Darius did it. Darius was also picked up, and he would be charged in the shooting with Jimmy. Darius is eligible for parole in 2032, and Jimmy is eligible in 2026. September 28th, 2007. Dominique was at his friend George's house in Spooktown Compton Crip turf. While riding a scooter leaving the area, Dominique would be approached by a man who asked him where was he from. Dominique would say he didn't bang. The man would whip out his gun and Dominique would run. Dominique would be shot in the thumb, but was able to take shelter in a nearby store. He would call George and tell him what happened. He would be later drove to George's house and would wait for the ambulance to assist his injury. Dominique wasn't able to pick out the shooter at the time, but would later go to the police station and show the police a MySpace account of an Elm Street Pirus named Kenny. He would be shown other photos by the police and was 100% sure Kenny was the shooter. Kenny would be picked up a few weeks later for a separate charge. He would have had the same gun used in the shooting. Kenny's alibi was that he couldn't have did the shooting because he was at work. It was time cards at Kenny's job showing he actually did work from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and the crime happened at 7 p.m. But his manager at his job will also say anybody could have clocked him in, and that wasn't a for sure thing that he actually worked. The police will make Kenny out to be a gang member from his social media and his previous charge of vandalism, where he was tagging Elm Street on walls. Kenny would end up getting sentenced to life in prison. In January of 2012, a man named Barry was sitting in his car across the street from Longfellow Elementary School in Nutty Block Compton Crips turf. He was waiting on his little brother to get out of school. Two Acacia Block members, Corey and Darius, will pull up alongside Barry and begin shooting. They will miss every shot. Barry got out of his car and will run. Police will be on the same street in a patrol car and they will see everything. The police would chase Corey and Darius until they pulled over. Corey would say he shot at Barry because Barry was getting at his wife. Corey said he shot first because he seen Barry reaching. Corey said he fired 4 shots to scare Barry, not to hurt him, and that's why he missed everything. That was later proven to be false. Police would use their Acacia Block affiliation against him, and them sliding to the Nutty Block area against him as well, since the Nutty Blocc and Acacia Blocc are rivals. Corey would even have tats on him dissing Nutty Blocc. This will all be used against him as just another drive-by shooting between the two gangs. Corey was sentenced to 55 years to life, and Darius received 39 years to life. Keontae and Deontay were twin brothers from Nutty Blocc. They lived with their mom, grandma, and grandpa in Nutty Blocc turf. On the morning of July 25th, 2013, a Nutty Blocc member named Brandon was sitting outside Keontae and Deontay's house, waiting for them to come out, when a silver Audi drove by shooting over 20 shots at the house. Keontae and Deontay's grandpa would be shot 3 times, and he would lose his life. The car was later identified, and the shooter was determined to be a man named Brian, who was from Spooktown. Brian was a well-known Spooktown member, even having tats dissing Nutty Blocc on him. Brian was said to have did the shooting because a few days prior, Keontae and Deontay had jumped him. Brian received 75 years to life. This will conclude this episode of Warren Cali. If you haven't already, check out my previous videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.